This is Theodore at Lies of the Devil. Go to liesofthedevil.com. We're at the front line in a spiritual warfare. Sign up for the newsletter. Get involved. We get calls all the time now. This movement is taking off. What we're doing is taking off as a ministry. Please get on board. Help us grow. See what God is going to do. I want to get right into George Lucas and the new film Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And what exactly does that mean? What exactly does that mean? Now, George Lucas, it is admitted that a lot of his storyline for Star Wars came from a gentleman called Mr. Campbell, who believes that mythology can be used to get us closer to God, and that all these little fables can better man. It can make man evolve. And in fact, their mutual friend was a woman who found out about jumping genes, and she was all about. She hated religion. She actually said something about to the effect of, you know, if it came down to God or my microscope, I would choose my microscope. You know, so George Lucas is way out there in left field. Okay, big time. And all of this has to do with communists and them wanting to destroy America, and they're using Hollywood as a way to weaponize media against people and children at a young age and brainwash them, and then to take over America, to take over the world, bring in their New World Order, Albert Pike, 33rd degree Freemason, World War III, okay, where he pits the nihilists and the atheists up against the Christians. Okay, that's what this whole thing is about. And Hollywood is just a big propaganda tool. Now, I want to start this off with praying that God, whoever watches this, God will open up their eyes and their heart, and that they will accept Jesus Christ as the only truth. It's the only truth. And this book is so awesome. It's the most historically accurate, scientifically accurate. It's God's word, okay? God is real, whether you like it or not. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, 5, verse 5. Casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. What is that saying? Man, just their imagination runs wild. They think that they can become so intelligent. Look at these atheists and these people that believe that you came from soup. You know what I mean? These sci-fi scientists, I call them. They're so high and mighty in their prowess, and they're proud, and they're just, and they become fools. And that's what George Lucas and these people are. I mean, it's highly entertaining. They admit that if you can get into the imagination of a 10-year-old, you can make bank. Because children, you know, that's why you have to get them at an early age, tell them about the Word of God, the truth of God. But that's what this is all about, people. It's about destroying the mind, because the soul is much easier at that point. Let's get right to it then, huh? People will say that Star Wars, I get so many people like, you're looking way too into these things. You're nuts. Okay, well, let's just go into this evidence-wise, and let's pick it apart, and we'll show you that these guys really are crazy. So, we look to the stars and wonder. Light from infinite directions and distances meet our gaze, and within our mythic imagination, as Joseph Campbell described it, we begin to tell stories. In 1984, Joseph Campbell came to the place of fine arts in San Francisco, an architectural beauty rebuilt from the Panama Pacific International Exposition in 1915 and near the current location of Lucasfilm's headquarters. The iconic dome had been constructed to reflect the classical styles of ancient Roman Greece. It's all about mythological fables and hijacking the Bible and trying to pervert it. George Lucas was in the audience. Though he had long admired and studied Campbell back in the time of his early drafts of Star Wars, he had yet to meet the man he would call my Yoda, his little god, his little yoga buddy. Outer space is within, inasmuch as the laws of space are within us. Outer and inner space are the same. After the mesmerizing, this is what Joseph Campbell was saying. Campbell told the audience in San Francisco, from the outer world, the senses carry images to the mind, which do not become myth, however, until they're transformed by the fusion with accordant insights, awakened as the imagination of the inner world of the body, as Yoda tells Luke in The Empire Strikes Back. Luminous beings are we, not this crude manner. Um, what happened with the Shack? The guy, the Shack, that everybody's now figuring him out that he's a Luciferian Universalist. He says that if you think, if I believe that the cosmos and everything that God created, and that it's all singularity, it's all one, and that all things come through Jesus Christ as one from the cosmos and the matter and the debris and the spirit, and then the cosmos and the cosmos and the theme of mind, yeah, I'm a Universalist. It's like, you know, they just lace all these terminologies, all these different lexicons that sound so intelligent. They just lace it together in psychobabble, and they make people just, ah. Now, I want to show the trailer of Star Wars, The Last Jedi, and then we're going to break that apart. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I know is going to happen in The Last Jedi, okay? It's basically going to be a conflict of the Freemason, the good and the bad, finally colliding, and eternal peace at that point. Breathe, just breathe. Like yoga. You ever see those yogins, the new age spiritualist type people? You ever see what they do? Just breathe. Exhale. And then they meditate, and they literally they let demons like possess them. Okay, that's what this is all about. Star Wars is all about yoga, Hinduism, new age paganism.
Reach out.
How many times did, like, in the Shack, if you go watch the Shack, how he had these witches that were like, you know, and I can really get into what Lucifer gives these people. In a way, he gives them power. I'm not joking you. Okay, I've seen it with my own eyes. But like, you should, it's hilarious though, because, you know, they think that they're more powerful than God. So that scene where she's like touching the ground and like the rocks are lifting up. You know, we just got done watching Fallen Skies, Steven Spielberg's Fallen Skies, where like a woman became a hybrid alien and she could like control the environment. Anyway, these pagan witches literally believe, like through the ether, that they'll be able to control their environment. And like, there's a scene in the Shack where the woman's like, my spiritus goddess is she's water, and then she goes like this, and then a wave, you can hear the wave go, and she's just like, I did that. Now let's get back into brainwashing. You know, and I believe that Satan does give them a power to a limited degree, because he's allowed to do that, using demons, like these magicians that fool around with people. And anyway, that's what that was all about. It's all about tapping into your mind, telekinesis, psychokinesis. The CIA, watch the last documentary I did, that they can remote view what's going on in the world. That's what it's all about. So here we go.
Light. Darkness. A balance. It's so much bigger.
There you go. I'm going to show you right here, light and darkness. It's so much bigger. See, they tap into, they believe, okay, they believe that the force, this ether that's around them, that God created, this Kabbalic God who is male and female, he created us in his image, okay, just like what the Bible says, but so that he can reflect on man and find out and learn from man. And that they have these telekinesis, remote viewing, Hinduistic type powers to manipulate their environment and stuff like that. So when she's saying, what do you see? And she's like, light, darkness, violence. Okay? It's because literally they believe that the force, the Jedi, the good force, and the evil, the bad force, is all tapping into the force. And that the force is for the ultimate good, the New World Order, but that there's always good and bad that have to fight each other in order to usher in that New World Order. So where is it here? Yep, here we go. The Jedi and the Sith are similar, we are told, except that the Jedi uses the light side of the Force while the Sith use the dark side. Still, they are both using the Force, just different sides of it. At one point, and it talks about, at 45 minutes, Obi-Wan Kenobi says, isn't Anakin the chosen one? Is he not the one who will bring balance to the Force? The balancing the Force is mentioned several times in the movie. And here we go. Campbell, the guy we talked about who believes in myths are God, that myths get us closer to God, this New World Order. Campbell often takes religious stories and forces them to fit his pantheistic worldview. He even does this with the Bible. For example, in The Power of Myth, he compares a serpent in the Garden of Eden with immortal energy and consciousness engaged in the field of time, constantly throwing off death and being born again. During the interview, Campbell and Moyers turned the Judeo-Christian concept of love thy neighbor into a pantheistic view of morality, where we are supposed to be love thy neighbor as thyself because thy neighbor is thyself. Not only I and my neighbor are one, but God and I are also in Campbell's religion. Man is not made in the image of God, according to Campbell. Man is God. Okay, this goes hand. I'm gonna play him actual clip of him talking about this. And mind you, I just remind you, George Lucas and this Campbell guy, George Lucas loved this man, loved him. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas are like the best of friends. These people are constantly hanging out with each other. Like in Hollywood, Sam Raimi, who did the Spider-Man movies and did the Evil Dead and stuff, all these people at a very young age were into movies and whatnot and black magic, because movie magic, it's literally magicians, okay? They got it to a young age and they went to school together and then they got promoted, you know, because they sold their soul out to the devil. They got promoted and ended up taking over Hollywood. But anyway, this guy, let's listen to what this Campbell guy says out of his own mouth so that people don't think I'm some conspiracy theorist. Oh, you're taking things out of context. No, this is what these people are saying. Sorry.
Is there something in common in every culture that creates this need for God?
Well, I think anyone who has an experience of mystery at all knows that there is a dimension, let's say, of the universe that is not that which is available to his senses. There's a wonderful saying in one of the Upanishads, when before a sunset or a mountain and the beauty of this or of that, you pause and say, ah, that is participation in divinity. And I think that's what it is. It's the realization of wonder. And also the experience of tremendous power, which people, of course, living in the world of nature are experiencing all the time. You know, there's something there that's much bigger than the human dimension. And our way of thinking in the West largely is that God is the source of the energy. The way in most Oriental thinking, and I think in most what we call primitive thinking also, is that God is a manifestation of the energy, not its source.
Okay, let me just break it down what he just said, okay? These people, like, I'm so tired of it. They say that they're Christians, and they hide themselves very well. They blend themselves into anything that all the different sectors of the economy, everywhere, and they're just hardcore pagan, Gnostic witchcraft. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you something. When we look at each other, the way you're looking at me on YouTube right now, or whatever the case being, you and I, we live in a physical world. It's not a hologram. I don't care what anybody says. It's not. It's real. Now, God breathed life into Adam. Literally, we have electricity pumping our heart, firing neurons in our brain. God gave us a soul. Okay? And we have a conscience to understand that we have a soul. What these people are doing, and exactly what Paul warned about, is that they take what the reality of the situation is. It's the Bible. It's God who created everything, your soul, everything. They take it, and instead of understanding just it's so simple, it's complex. It's so complex, it's simple, okay? That's how amazing our God is, that he gave us a book so we can understand. Instead of them just going, wow, okay, that's it. Let's try to make man better. Let's make environments better. Let's really educate our children. Let's do amazing things for the Lord. No, instead of doing that, they create vain imaginations to just perpetuate lies, and Satan does very well by sneaking in there and going, ha 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 ha, yes, all for filthy lucre's sake. We'll destroy their minds with mythology and all this crazy stuff where they won't even recognize Jesus Christ, the historicity of Jesus Christ. Instead, they'll fall after fake religions like in the Tower of Babel and Nimrod and all that nonsense. That's who this guy is. I mean, watch out for this stuff. So George Lucas, let's talk about the woman that hooked George Lucas up with this John Campbell guy. After mesmerizing discussions, Lucas was introduced to Campbell via their mutual friend, scientist, and Nobel laureate, Barbara McClintock. Now, who's Barbara McClintock? Let's go look into her. Barbara McClintock, fighting the male establishment. Barbara McClintock. There was not that strong necessity for a personal attachment to anybody. I just didn't feel it, and I could never understand marriage. I never went through the experience of requiring it. This is who this Barbara McClintock, that's a direct quote. So she was a hardcore feminist that didn't want to get married. You know, many of the early pioneers of genetics were by nature loners who enjoyed solitude as much as possible, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, this woman came up with the jumping genes, meaning that genes, certain parts of genes, like in corn, you know how you have the red corn, the white corn or whatever, yellow corn, that the certain genes that have to do with pigment colorization would jump over to different parts of the kernels. Okay. Here's what she says about religion. This is where it shows that she's an antichrist. Oh, let me find it here. Here we go. McClintock had little patience for religion and its offerings for mental comfort. Instead, she devoted her entire adult life to the pursuit of science. She was a loner to the core. She never married or had children, a scientific nun in search of the greatest truths in the smallest places. Here we go. She had the most rewarding life by not having a family, she says, and putting faith in the hands of a microscope rather than God. As always, the answers are debatable, and it's just to hide the cover. It's just to hide the fact that she was a hardcore feminist that hated God. And they actually have this terminology for women, Christian women, call them Christian women, that's called Christian eco-feminists. And they're all about taking care of the world, and that God, this pantheistic view of God, and that Jesus was nothing more than a deity, a prophet like Muhammad and stuff like that. Anyway, that's who this Barbara woman is. That's who this Barbara woman was. Goes hand in hand with George Lucas. And okay, let's read this little synopsis as to what an feminist is. Eco-fascist, Freudian slip. Ecofeminism, the challenge to theology. This article surveys the shaping of the theological system of Christianity from its ancient Middle East, Greek, and Hebrew roots to development in the West in Augustine, Luther, and Calvin. It shows the challenge to the model of male domination in this theology from the 17th century Quaker and 19th century abolitionist feminism to contemporary feminism. It then discusses the reconstruction of this theology called ecofeminists. And this goes hand in hand with Paul Walker. What's Paul Walker? Paul Young of The Shack. All about feminism. Listen, guys, I'm going to get people that are like, why do you hate women? I love my wife. My wife is an equal yoke, okay? We know our positions. We know what our roles are, our God-given roles, and we love each other. I got the best wife in the world. I sing to her every day. I try to. And we have fun with each other. We're a great team. Okay, I have nothing against, they're not second-class citizens or nothing like that. Women are, my wife is amazing. Okay, so don't pull that stuff. Don't put words in my mouth. I'm just telling you that the feminist movement was a communist agenda to try to destroy the family. Here we go. Like Plato, Christianity imagined the soul in relation to the body. No, not like Plato. Plato took from Christianity. So, like Plato, like he's the one that came up with this concept. Like Plato, Christianity imagined the soul in relation to the body as male controlling power over female identified body and passions that are to be controlled. Although women are conceded also to possess a redeemable soul in God's image, the classical Christian theological tradition sees this soul as non-gender. A genderless soul that can be redeemed through baptism in Christ is distinguished from women as male, who are seen as inherently closer to the sin-prone bodily tendencies. This lower nature demands that women be subordinate and kept under control by men. What the heck is that? No! Absolutely not. Now, Eve was tempted by Satan. Yeah, she was beguiled by Satan. She didn't get to see God create everything. Adam did. But nowhere does it say that women are subordinate to men and that they have certain roles. See, this whole thing, it's all about destroying the gospel of Christ. They don't even read their Bible. They just hate it. They hate it because they want to create their own religion so they can make lots of money. And this woman, Barbara, whatever her name is, was a part of it. And George Lucas is a part of it. Look at the last documentaries he did on the Shack, okay? It's all about feminism. It's all about men becoming queer-like, you know what I mean? And very feminist. And trying to destroy manhood. It's trying to, Let's go back to the trailer. Let's watch the rest of the last of the Jedi trailer. They have to. They take all of their theology. They have to lace it in with action scenes, and beautiful cinema to put you in a cathartic state of mind. You know what I mean? To whatever the messages they're giving you, you take it in blindly because of all of the storyline and elements and action and blowing up things that's going on around you. So you will immediately take it in, whatever they're suggesting.
I only know one truth. Jedi to end.
So he says, "I only know one truth." Okay, and you don't know where in the movie he actually says, "I only know one truth." You don't know what he's talking about. He's probably talking about the Force, just like the Force, Godhead. There's only one God, and that we're tapping into that Force, good and evil. And I have a feeling, I'm just going to tell you right now, just by watching this trailer, that there's going to be an epic battle, and that the good and the bad are going to reconcile through that epic battle, and they are going to come to the ultimate truth of a new world order, total peace. Okay? And I have this in my... Listen, guys, I wrote stories. I've got good stories. And in fact, I'm just good at writing stories, okay? God's given me that ability. I wanted to be a movie maker. I was filming at a very young age, like George Lucas and all these guys. I was filming movies, short movies. I was the top of my class at my university, and in fact, they took a lot of my stuff and they would put it on public television before football games. I would make nice promos or whatever the case be. I know catharsis. I know storytelling. These things could be much better, but you know what? I go, listen, I got to get this documentary done right now. I'll do my research real quick, and then I just do this. Is all live to tape. It's not edited. I can edit really good stuff, but I have to get this stuff out to the people. It's important. Anyway, Aristotle's Poetics for Screenwriters. I missed my place here, but Aristotle talks about once you become very good at storytelling, once you perfect that, you can get away with anything. That's what, you can suggest all kinds of stuff to people, and that's what Paul Young has done. He's an excellent storyteller. All these people that push this Nibiruan, alien, communism, Jesus Christ is a pagan god, they're excellent writers. They perfected it. They perfected that. And because the system is set up like Oprah Winfrey, they have networks that they promote those type of people. That's the talent. If you can sell out your soul to Satan, he will find you and he will lift you up. How a little moralizing turned a gladiator gore fest into a best picture. Aristotle says, tragedy is essentially an imitation, not of persons, but of action and life. Let me read that again. Tragedy is essentially an imitation, not of persons, but of action and life. Pornography, blood, merge them together. Hollywood's good at that. You got a great story. Let's hear from Lucas, his own mouth. Let's hear what he has to say about what Star Wars is all about.
I was trying to pitch Star Wars. I had an idea to do this kind of film. I was curious. Just an idea I had about psychological motifs that are in mythology, and if they're still accurate today. Because the great thing about mythology is an oral medium up until they learned how to write. But before that, with Homer and everybody, they would just tell the story. They go to people's houses, tell the story, get a free dinner, and that's how they made their livings. And then it passed down from father to son, and it, again, told the people what the rules are. You know, it's the same thing as a church and all the things we got that make us a community that we all believe in and share.
People, I did a video on Paul Young talking about, just go watch a documentary. He says that God is found in persons of a community, and that all of these fables, Oprah Winfrey's into this too, all these fables connect golden threads into the bigger Godhead. Okay? It's true. Homer, all these people. Actually, I think it was it Homer? He was blind. And so he would memorize these stories. He made up stories, whatever the case be. He actually memorized the stories in his head because he couldn't actually write it down, or he couldn't actually. And so he would memorize his stories and travel. I think it was Homer. I could be wrong about that. But make a long story short, they I think it was called the Sophists. They were actually warned by people. They were warned, don't come into our town because you're perverting our children. We can see what you're doing. You are giving them messages and you are changing our children. And so they were actually banned in some areas. Okay? So what George Lucas is talking about is absolutely correct. They would do all that stuff and they would get paid handsomely. Free meals, you name it. And in fact, George Lucas talks about, and I'm going to pull up one of his quotes, he says that if you can get into the imagination of a 10-year-old or 13-year-old, you can make a fortune. So he's basically admitting he found out the secret. He is basically admitting what he's doing. It all comes down to money for filthy lucre's sake.
Is what they use to go from a family to a tribe, and from a tribe to a city, and then to a country. And so I said, I wonder if the people still think the way they thought then. And I think I proved that they do, because the psychological motifs are the same. And it was this kind of thing, even though it's not in Star Wars, but when you're telling a story that...
Although it's not in Star Wars, what a load. You know what I mean? Like, it's just such crap. What liars. These guys are a bunch of liars.
There's a boring part when everybody's sleeping. You say, well, let's cut that out. And so you do. And then you say, well, this thing about where he falls in love with his mother and then he wants to kill his father, everybody likes that part. So then you keep that part in.
Yeah.
You know, and they didn't really know what they were doing. They were just getting responses from the audience. And it wasn't until Freud came along that people realized that, oh, these are psychological motifs been around for a long time.
Yeah.
He's talking about Sigmund Freud. It's so funny that I said Freudian slip. But, Sigmund Freud was a hardcore... The guy... Yeah, there's truths to psychology, okay? Look, at the CIA uses it all the time, okay? There's things that God has, mechanisms in our head that are just inherently... that are innately true, okay? Our sin nature. People loving violence, hurt, it's that there's just certain things that are true. And so he's talking about Sigmund Freud. It's all about psychology. It's all about propaganda. It's all about Sigmund Freud's nephew. Can't remember his name right now. I don't remember these names because they all blend together because it's all the same. But his nephew created propaganda. He was hardcore into propaganda. He actually got women hooked on smoking cigarettes, and then men hooked on smoking cigarettes because the cigarette looked like a male orifice sticking out of the mouth, and they sold it that way. They sold sex. I mean, he did all kinds of stuff. Anyway, my point is that George Lucas is invoking all of these people, all of their research, and for money's sake and pushing mythology, and it's destroying children's minds. Star Wars is not a good thing for children. I'm sorry, even C.S. Lewis's type stuff, his mythology, the Lord of the Rings type stuff is not good. I know they have Christian themes in there. I know they're fooling people into thinking that it's good. It's not. Okay? Now there's different levels of maturity in your Christian life where you finally reach that point and go, wow, this stuff is not good. Okay? And I know it's entertaining and whatnot, but you need to resist it. You can't get children hooked on that stuff at an early age. It will destroy them as they grow up trying to learn Christ, trying to mature in Christ.
And they're just as strong today.
But it's a lot about good and evil. It's a lot about heroes.
It's about good and evil, but heroes, what makes a hero? Yeah. What's friendship? What's the idea of sacrificing yourself for something larger? Yeah. They're all really basic things. They say, well, we don't have to make a movie about that. It's very obvious, but it's that.
Yeah, it's, sacrificing yourself. They use Jesus Christ, the ultimate romantic story, the most romantic story ever about God coming down as man and saving us. And it's totally true. All of it's true. That story in itself, they take that. I mean, even in the Old Testament, people like, well, in Egypt, talking about Horus, Jesus Christ is the same mythology as the Egyptian gods. It's just, it's been made up many, many times over. No, they would take the Old Testament prophecies and the truth of what the prophets were saying and precursor to the actual Messiah, Jesus Christ. They would take that. They would find prophecies of them speaking out against the Israelites, Moses, Jeremiah. Okay? And they would go, whoa, there's something to this. And so Satan takes it, he flips it upside down so that men can be worshipped. Here we go. Here he is talking about the Force and video scripts and how to make stories more entertaining.
Controls individuals, yet we have free will. We have a destiny if we want to follow it. We live for a reason and must discover what it is. It looks like it was done when I started episode 1.
Oh, okay.
Because it looks like it's referring to episode 1. And a lot of this, like this thing about the Force, in all living things that surround us is really just a capsule of what was said in episode 5.
Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us.
The core of the Force. I mean, you got the dark side, the light side. One is selfless, one is selfish. And you want to keep them in balance. What happens when you go to the dark side is it goes out of balance, and then you get really selfish and you forget about everybody, and you ultimately lead yourself, because when you get selfish, you get stuff, or you want stuff. And when you want stuff and you get stuff, then you are afraid somebody's going to take it away from you, whether it's a person or a thing or a particular pleasure, experience.
This is all about Freemasons, the black and white tiles. The Freemasons are big into this. You ever look at those? You ever go into a building, you see black and white tiles? Why is there black and white? Together they make the color gray, okay? But why is there? Because even in government, there's evil and there's good, and they have to clash. They have to clash together in order to bring a new world order. Now let's kind of fast forward here. Let's get into Albert Pike and really, what is this atheism spirituality, what George Lucas is talking about, where they totally relinquish God? They have nothing to do with God. What is this, and what's the bigger picture? What are they wanting in World War III? Okay, what are they wanting in this Last Jedi Star Wars film, right? I have previously chronicled atheism spirituality, evidencing their attempts to co-opt science in order to replace awe in God with awe in cosmic accidents. Worshipping the cosmos, including the accident of the cosmos itself. They primed the pump for the Illuminati New World Order by preaching the pseudo-gospel of neo-pagan atheism. That's right. This is true free thinker. I don't know anything about it. I just saw the article, and it was fantastic. Let us begin with Jean-Jacques Rousseau in the 70s. If anyone, after publicly recognized these dogmas, behaves as he does not believe them, let him be punished by death. He has committed the worst of all crimes, that of lying above the law. Here we go. Dan, this is what I was looking for. Dan Barker of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Sorry, this is what I was looking for. Dan Barker of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Freedom from Religion Foundation is an IRS nonprofit, and they are hardcore going after Christians, trying to destroy the gospel and basically make laws in the U.S. to persecute Christians. This is what Dan Barker says. Atheism and free thought and true humanistic morality are so much more clear, so much more useful, so much more reasonable. So, without all the negative baggage of theology and judgment and hell and the supernatural. I don't have to try to prop up this phony supernatural system. Atheists and agnostics are more accountable. They are more moral. They are more responsibility in their lives because they realize that it's the world, not an imaginary supernatural world. They're worshiping the world. They worship each other, right? Well, let's go back into here. So this is a letter from Albert Pike, a 33rd degree Freemason, and he's talking about the 3 world wars. I'm not going to get in the first 2. The first was about getting rid of the Russian czars, getting rid of kings and queens, okay? The Second World War was in order to balance Christendom, which would then be restrained, okay? Hitler going after paganism, communism, and so that Christians can be propped up, but then they can also be controlled. Then here we go. This is the World War. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists, people that are just very prideful, arrogant. Okay, we shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which is all its horror will surely clear to the relations, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism. Both will be conquered and exterminated at the same time. He goes on to say that basically this is what they want. They want the people in Israel, they want a Middle East war. They want the Middle East to fight. They want a huge war. And then they also want the Christians and the atheists to fight each other. How many people do you know out there are debating Christians and they're making a lot of money from debating atheists, and they're making a lot of money from it, and they're all about, get me an atheist. I want to argue with an atheist. They want the atheist, and this person is supposed to be like a big time, I fight communism, I fight against government, it's evil. But yet they're the ones that are help ushering in this World War III, where they have Christians and atheists fighting each other. They want to cause an argument, they want debate, so that both the Christians and the atheists, while the Middle East war is going on, it's clashing to where both sides are totally exhausted, and they bring in a new world order system that's totally spiritual, but at the same time worshiping man, a humanistic worldview, and they all give into it. Did you understand what I just said? You have the good force versus the bad force fighting each other, so much so to where they exhaust each other and bring in a new world order. Jesus, the God of the Bible, versus atheists who hate God. They fight each other. They become so exhausted that a new government is formed, a new antichrist, new world order system, new religion is brought forth, and people will accept it because they're so tired of fighting. That's exactly what George Lucas has talked about in Star Wars. And The Last Jedi, I believe, is the final conflict between both the evil and the good, bringing in total new world order, peace, whatever. Garbage that they think that they're going to get away with. The naked communists, the 45 goals of the communist goal. U.S. should accept coexistence as the only alternative to atomic war. To develop the illusion that total disarmament by the U.S. will be the demonstration of moral strength. Go back to a video I just did on rules for radicals, Trump, CNN, and Hillary Clinton connection, where the Russians, their total goal is to disarm America, and how Hillary Clinton sold 20% of her uranium, nuclear warheads, to Russia. And they want to say that Donald Trump has connections to Russia? How come they're not investigating Hillary Clinton? And that's just one of her scandals. You know what I mean? So they want to disarm America. They want, how many times did Barack Obama say, we want a nuclear-free world? Listen, bad guys will figure out a way to harm you if you bring down your defense. Extend long-term loans to Russia and Soviet satellites, okay? Providing American aid to all nations regardless of communist domination. Isn't that what's going on with the UN and NATO and how we wanted to pull away from that? Pay your fair share. Present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. Infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion with social religion. Eliminate prayer or any phase of religious expression in schools on the grounds that it violates principles of separation of church and state. Oh man. Oops. Go to Beauty and the Beast. Go to Beauty and the Beast. It talks about, I mean, just go watch it, the documentary. It's hardcore selling homosexuality in a Disney movie, subliminal message at a young age to destroy children's minds. So as they grow up, I mean, STDs are booming through the roof. People, like literally 1 in 4 college students have an STD. It's crazy. They have apps like, I don't even know the names of it, Tinder or something like that, where people can set up sex dates and they can go and exchange STDs. Like, I have an STD. Do you have an STD? Yeah, I've got an STD. Okay, let's do it. And they'll have sex, and just it's creating viruses. Anyway, this whole thing is planned out. Oops, sorry, I was frozen there. This stuff. I'm not even going to get into that article. I don't really care about that one. But here we go. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, the best of friends. Close friends, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas have had great impact on the entertainment industry. Most famous for Star Wars and E.T. See, it's all about these little innuendo, subliminal messages. From the beginning, Lucas sought funding, outsourced normal studio channels, which he still believes is the key to being able to make the kind of groundbreaking films he wanted to make. Lucas emphasized again and again that the central challenge in filmmaking is and always will be funding. Yeah, it's because they have a tight purse string on the whole thing. Anyway, that whole article talks about Steven Spielberg and George Lucas being friends and how that they are dominating the industry. No, it makes it look out like they want you to look like the underdog made it. The underdog made it to the top. No, they have a tight purse string. George Lucas got his funding from Hollywood moguls. Steven Spielberg got his money from Hollywood moguls. Yes, they make movies. They look at the independent filmmaking industry. All these people make their movies at they have to be able to sell their souls out, right? You have to be able to know, hey, are you going to sell your soul out? Are you going to look at this movie Raw that was made? It was about a woman who had a satanic ritual done to her, bloodletting ritual, and then she goes out and becomes a cannibal and has there's weird sex scenes and her biting people's arms off and weird stuff, okay? Quentin Tarantino made Pulp Fiction. It was all about, he got his money from a Hollywood mogul and just enough money to make a film, and it was all about shooting, killing, homosexual acts, people getting their ears ripped off or whatever. That's Reservoir Dogs. And it's just all this blood and gore, and guess what? Now he's at the top of the chain. They do the same thing with George Lucas. They did the same thing with Sam Raimi with Evil Dead. They do the same thing with all these people at the Cannes Festival. They give them money. They go, okay, well, here in Hollywood, we're going to be making Marvel comic books, movies, and we're going to make huge, Transformer movies, and it's just going to be brainwash galore and Star Wars. And, you know what? We need new talent. So we're going to just, through different shell companies, nonprofits that are for the arts, we're going to give them money, and then they can distribute it to the people that are going to sell their souls out, that'll make the most disgusting, sick type films that we can bring them up into Hollywood. And I'm not even going to get into Hollywood Party where you got the communists, the Chinese. Okay, the Russians were doing it a long time ago. This goes hand in hand with the communist, the 45 goals of the communists to destroy America. They were taking over Hollywood at a right after, I believe, it's basically been going on, but I believe especially since 1945 when we basically destroyed Hitler. Okay. They've been doing that for a very long time, and now the Chinese communists they bought over AMC. Their communist Chinese are taking over. Okay, I'm gonna get back into Star Wars. Okay, it all molds together. You know what I mean? All of it molds together. Here we go with the Matrix. The Matrix is hard Gnosticism. I mean, I know when people go, I'm like Neo from the Matrix, or they promote the Matrix, it's because they're Gnostics and they know that they're Gnostics, and they're trying to use the Matrix, a mythology that is true, good versus bad, to prop themselves up to make themselves look powerful. Do you know who I'm talking about when I say that?
This is the construct. It's our loading program. We can load anything from clothing to equipment, weapons, training simulations, any.
See the little triangle he's holding down by him with his hand? It's all about, and then he like gives him the red or the blue pill. You know, take the red or the blue pill. Do you want to wake up? Do you want to learn the Gnostic esoteric knowledge that will give you the power to take over your world? Right? Do you want to do that? Anyway, this construct, it's all about, they want this with transhumanism. They want to port people in, human beings, into computer systems using surrogates to control them. It's the same thing what he's talking about in this film, where he's talking about how it's an empty construct. We can do whatever we want by sticking computer programs in here. And now that you're hooked into our machines. And anyway, I'm going to let him talk about the rest of it, but pay attention to the Matrix. It's all about becoming a god. It's all about Neo becoming the Jesus Christ figure to fight the evil, to bring in a new world order system.
Thing we need.
Right now, we're inside a computer program.
Is it really so hard to believe? Your clothes are different, the plugs in your arms and head are gone. Your hair has changed. Your appearance now is what we call residual self-image. It is the mental projection of your digital self.
Look at the television. Sorry about that. It's all live. Look at the television, the pyramid. What does it say? Radiola television, I think, or something like that.
This isn't real.
What is real? How do you define real?
The shack esoteric, all roads lead to Christ. There is no right road. All roads lead to the Godhead, but there is no right road. You know, God says specifically, take the narrow path. Wide is the gate to destruction. Narrow is the way to heaven. Narrow is the path. Paraphrasing, but you know what I mean? And these people don't do that. Instead, it's like all roads lead to God. Here we go, the Matrix Reloaded, where he's talking to God. Basically, there's the architect who's the bad God, I guess, you know, that created the whole world. And then there's this female, again, male, female God, asexual God, the female God who's the all-nurturing, enlightened one that is helping Neo fulfill the prophecy.
I felt like sitting.
I know. So, let's get the obvious stuff out of the way.
You're not human, are you?
And it's tough to get any more obvious than that.
If I had to guess, I'd say you're a program from the machine world. So is he.
So far, so good.
But if that's true, that could mean you are part of this system. Another kind of control.
Keep going.
I suppose the most obvious question is, how can I trust you?
Bingo. It is a pickle, no doubt about it. Bad news is there's no way if you can really know whether I'm here to help you or not. So it's really up to you. Just have to make up your own damn mind to either accept what I'm going to tell you or reject it. Candy?
You already know if I'm going to take it?
Wouldn't be much of an oracle if I didn't.
But if you already know, how can I make a choice?
Because you didn't come here to make the choice. You've already made it. You're here to try to understand why you made it.
See, this George Lucas, the whole thing, you know what I mean? It's like, I I don't know how to make it any more obvious. You know, I think people figured it out, but it's like, oh man, I could get into all kinds of stuff. So anyway, you know, I'm gonna close out on a couple things. Neo talking to the architect, the God who created the world, one of the gods, the architect, the God who created the whole entire world. He also created this female god deity. Okay, and how he talks about how basically he's learning from everybody. He's learning from the different code he created, that Neo was a radical, and he's learning from Neo, and that Neo's been put together like Ghost in the Shell numerous times. Okay, go watch Ghost in the Shell. Go to the documentaries. I got tons of them. All of this stuff is going to tie back into what we're talking about now. But we're going to close in on him, and then I'm going to show you Jim Carrey's new movie where he's like on psychedelic drugs, and he's talking about how humankind's mind is one with the cosmos, and the cosmos are one with the mind. And in fact, once we understand these things, we can become complete human beings and you know what I mean? And it's just like, shut up. Shut up. Stop your psychobabble. You're crazy. Okay? You took too many drugs. You took way too many drugs. Stop.
The function of the One is now to return to the source, allowing a temporary dissemination of the code you carry, reinserting the Prime program. After which you will be required to select from the Matrix 23 individuals, 16 female, 7 male, to rebuild Zion. Failure to comply with this process will result in a cataclysmic system crash, killing everyone connected to the Matrix, which, coupled with the extermination of Zion, will ultimately result in the extinction of the entire human race.
Zion in the movie Matrix, Zion is like this place where people are partying. It's like a big orgy, and people are like just sweaty, dancing at each other, total sin. You know what I mean? So again, it's Satan taking what's in the Bible, the truth that's in the Bible, and he flipping it upside down on its head and using derogatory scenes and suggestive material to destroy the Bible. Okay? Just like we did with Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were eternal. They were everlasting. They had everlasting life. And where's my Bible? In Genesis 3:5, Genesis 3:5, Adam and Eve have lasting life. They were living in the Garden of Eden with God, and you know everything was great. And Satan went in there and just twisted just a little bit, twisted the word just a little bit, made her feel insecure, made her doubt God, so that she would literally kill herself, kill Adam and her. They would kill themselves and then go, oh, but I'll give you everlasting life. Here we go. It keeps freezing up. I'm sorry about that, guys. It's just me and my wife, and I'm doing this live, and I make mistakes. For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Your eyes shall be opened. Isn't that kind of what the Gnostics and esoterics are saying? You know what I mean? Actually, that's exactly what they're saying. I didn't even realize it until now. Satan is using the esoteric knowledge and the Gnostics type stuff. This is what I'm talking about. But I'm condensing it now. He's using the esoteric knowledge to destroy God, and that you can become godlike, so that he can fulfill his promise and build humans alongside machines so that they will be as gods. Okay? This Genesis 3:5 says it all. I'm going to make a documentary just on this. I don't know why it didn't hit me till now. This verse says everything that we're talking about. Everything. Okay? Not just about transhumanisms and the suggested promise of becoming godlike, but it's also talking about he's using esoteric knowledge from the movies, all the stuff that you see in YouTube. He's using all of that to say your eyes will be opened. I will open your eyes to the further acknowledgement of you being gods, and then I will give you the technology to become godlike. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. That's his lie. Okay? For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Knowing that the good and the bad fight each other, but for my purposes as the serpent, as Lucifer, I will make sure that you become like gods. Bring in a new world order system. And here in the Bible, we know God has the final victory. That's why you should be standing up to these people. Who cares about what your family says? Who cares about what your friends might think? Who cares about the thing? We're promised victory. God's given us victory. Souls are on the line. Okay? go to Lies of the Devil, support us, okay? Support all the different ministries that are out there that are doing good work. Stop being fooled by these Gnostics, these heretics, people like Rob Bell, people like, you know what I'm talking about out there. Stop supporting these people and go back and support the real people that are telling you the truth.
You won't let it happen. You can't. You need human beings to survive.
There are levels of survival we are prepared to accept.
Richard Seed, the transhumanist, said that if you're going to stop from him becoming like God, a big transhumanist, okay, theoretical physicist, if you're going to stop him from becoming like a God, then we will have warfare and we will destroy you. That's what this architect's talking about. We have ways to survive and we will kill humans.
You need human beings to survive.
There are levels of survival we are prepared to accept. However, the relevant issue is whether or not you are ready to accept the responsibility for the death of every human being in this world. It is interesting reading your reactions. Your 5 predecessors were, by design, based on a similar predication, a contingent affirmation that was meant to create a profound attachment to the rest of your species, facilitating the function of the One. While the others experienced this in a very general way, your experience is far more specific, vis-a-vis love.
Trinity.
Apropos, she entered the Matrix to save your life at the cost of her own. The door to your left leads back to the Matrix to her.
Anyway, he gives him an option. Everybody's seen the Matrix, I'm sure. He gives him the option that, what are you going to do? He wants to find out his code. He wants to find out how much free will he actually has. Okay. Jim Carrey, I'm going to go into this last thing, and this is more funny than anything. Jim Carrey's a fruit ball. Okay. The guy is totally lost it. I laugh with my wife. He has funny movies. Okay. He does funny things because he humiliates himself. But, I laugh at her. I'm a goofy person, okay? Really. I'm not always like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, that's not who I am. I'm very, I just love my wife. I love praising God. I love making up songs. You know what I mean? And Jim Carrey, I tell her all the time, I'm like, you know what? Just thinking about it, he would be so annoying. You know what I mean? That's probably why he's gotten divorced from Jenny McCarthy and all these people, because they probably can't stand him because he's constantly just a goofball, constantly just being a weirdo instead of, being a man. He just probably does. That's probably what happened with Robin Williams, right? They're so used to making people laugh. This is what my wife said. They're so used to making people laugh and stuff like that they forget who they are. This Jim Carrey guy's lost it. I'm going to show you. He says that he actually went to a shaman, an Indian. This was right after Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, or right after See Dick Jane Run or whatever. And to find enlightenment, like Shia LaBeouf going off into the Arctic or whatever the case being, to find himself, live there for a month. Like the Buddhists, where everybody, the men have totally left their wives, everybody's homeless, and they have to find themselves. So they leave their family to go live as a homeless person in the streets. Okay. Jim Carrey lost it. He went to a shaman, an Indian, and he went to this escapade where they brought him up to a mountain and they gave him a bunch of peyote and then they leave him. And so he was talking about in an interview how he was literally looking out into the mountains and he would see Indians or something like that and just see a bunch of different stuff. And then when he would look into the stars would form into God pictures of God and all kinds of stupid stuff. And so now he's taking it overboard. And now he's playing in this new movie that's just oh my goodness. Here we go. Educate, inspire, change. I'm going to start ripping this website apart. It's Hinduism, Jim Carrey preparing for psychedelic film role by staying in nature and taking mushrooms. What? Oh, it's just so funny. Look at him. Come on. Look at him. It's it's just so strange. The deeper you go into a psychedelic dimension, the bigger it gets. I've seen things which no human being has ever seen before, and no human being will ever see again. I retreated to nature and took 5 grams of dried mushrooms. I took dried mushrooms in order to prepare for this role. Just it's so ridiculous. It's just the guy's nuts. Oh, okay. The real message of psychedelics, I think, is to just listen to the psychobabble. The real message of psychedelics, I think, is to reclaim experience and to trust yourself. Your perceptions are primary. Your feelings are correct. Everything must constellate out and make sense and parse with what you know. If you don't start from that assumption, then you are off-center to begin with. And the psychedelics will dissolve the cultural programming that has potentially made you a mark and restore your authenticity. What did he just say? What did he just say? You know what I mean? And people will be like, oh, you have to be enlightened to understand what he said. You have to be enlightened. It's so brilliant. Deepak Chopra. You know what I mean? And I mean, it's like, he's literally saying just trust yourself, and that drugs help you to trust yourself. That's essentially what he just said. And that when you take drugs, you'll understand that you're part of the universe and you'll become one with the universe. But you have to take the drugs. Anyway, the apartment complex that we're in. Oh, somebody's probably playing loud music. But I mean, these guys are nuts. Okay, George Lucas probably every night goes home and takes mushrooms. Okay, and you know, just like Jim Carrey, they probably go take a bunch of mushrooms. Okay, this is serious. Drugs open up a spiritual doorway in you. It literally opens you up so that demons can possess you. And they do it through movies. They do it through... How many kids do you think are on opioids? How many people do you think are on drugs? And they're just wandering about. My brother... I have a family member... Huh. What's that? Yeah, oh yeah. Flocka, look at the drugs in there. We saw a guy the other day. It was just like, oh, you know. But I have a family member. All he does is take drugs. All he does is take drugs and watch like Devil's Reject type movies, Rob Zombie movies and stuff like that. And I've tried to get him saved. It's hard because he literally has become possessed. No joke. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. God bless. Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. Go out there, spread the news, spread the gospel, get involved at liesthedevil.com, sign up for the newsletter. We're going to be making tons of documentaries. I've been putting ads everywhere. Alien Covenant, The Last Supper, and Satan's New Testament, The Beauty and the Beast. We're going to do one on Blade Runner. I'll probably have to do one on Star Wars, a more professional one. We got to wake people up. And I'm sure I'm going to get tons of bad comments and people down thumbings and going, you're crazy. You sound like a psycho. You sound crazy. You know what I mean? Like, you're making these things up. Yeah, I just made up all this stuff. I just pulled this stuff out of thin air. You're right. George Lucas did not believe in Mr. Campbell, the soup. No, just joking. The guy that believed in mythology gets us closer to God. He didn't talk to him. There's no such person as Barbara McClintock. Jim Carrey's not taking mushrooms for this new role where he's a psychedelic guru. It's all made up. Matrix is made up, the whole thing. I made the whole thing up.